Okay, so it probably should be live on YouTube as well. So we'll see. This is an experiment on YouTube. Okay, everybody. So welcome to Oxalates and Osteoporosis. It's an oxalate masterclass. And for those who don't know me, I'm Margie Bissinger.
I know you.
I'm so excited to be here today with Dr. Kim Millman. And Dr. Millman has been working as an integrative doctor with people with osteoporosis and osteopenia and bone health for over 15 years. And there's really only one Dr. Millman. For those who know her, she's just amazing. And what I love so much is she cares so much about teaching and educating. And tonight we're going to really talk about oxalates because it's a problem. And it's something a lot of people, there's just so much confusion. So Dr. Millman and I were talking, and she said that she would love to come and share this with my community. So that's one reason. And the second reason that I wanted her to come was because she teaches a class that's one of the most amazing classes ever. And I teach two parts of it. And I wanted for those who might be interested just to see her teaching style because it's just very different and great. All right. So welcome, Dr. Millman.
Hey, so nice to be with all of you. We've got some faces that we definitely recognize and some faces that I don't recognize. So welcome to everyone. And I'm excited to actually present all this data. Did you want to say like a good energy?
Yes,
I think this is your tradition.
Yep, I have everybody on the screen now. So for a minute, and I like to feel community. I'm big into energy. So before we say that, put an intention out there that you're going to get something from tonight that's really going to make a difference in your life. So just put a positive intention out there. And what we're going to do on the count of three, we're going to just say hi, good energy. And just so we'll get the juices flowing here. Okay, ready, everybody? So you can unmute and then we'll mute again. 1, 2, 3. Hi.
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 Hi, good energy.
Hi.
Hi, good energy.
Hi.
Are you all juiced up, Dr. Millman? Okay, so I'm going to change the view back. So everybody mute, and I'm going to get rid of me, and I'm going to totally turn it over to you, Dr. Millman. So you can explain how.
It does take me a few moments to.
That's okay. And you have the links in the chat, correct? Okay, good. Okay, so I'll mute everybody who's not muted. Well, so we'll have time for questions afterwards. So, and you can write something in the chat, but you'll actually be able to ask your question afterwards. So don't, you know, we'll do like a half hour afterwards of Q&A. So anyway, but yeah, so there's no reason to interrupt unless there's some emergent. I'll be checking the chat through the whole thing.
Margie, it doesn't look like you're recording this yet.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, and we lost the whole good energy. You're right. Can you even imagine? I was so busy with the YouTube. Do you mind doing the energy again then to record it? Does everybody mind for a second doing one more time? Because I'd like for people in the replay to hear it, to get the good energy too. So we'll just do it one more time. Oh my gosh, that would have been so crazy. Ready?
That would have been something.
Okay, here we go. Okay, everybody, I'm so excited. I'm Margie Bissinger, and I'm here with Dr. Kim Millman. And we are going to start off by putting a good intention. Everybody on the replay, put a good intention that you're going to get something from tonight. And then on the count of three, we're just going to say, hi, good energy. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hi, good energy.
Energy.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so everybody can mute. And let me change one more thing because one more second. I was so careful because I'm trying to mute. We'll mute you in a second. So everybody mute. Well, so I was trying something new, which we are doing. We're recording on YouTube, and I was so busy with that, I forgot to hit record. So thank you for reminding me. And prior to that, I introduced Dr. Kim Millman, but I'll do that again. So Dr. Kim Millman is an integrative physician, and she's been working for over 15 years with people with osteoporosis. And in an integrative approach, and her approach is very effective. She's had phenomenal results, and she's sharing that with all of us, which is so great. And the reason we're talking about oxalates, which she'll explain, is because it's a big deal and people, there's so much confusion. But Dr. Millman has information, and info is power. And she also has tech things and tools we can use. And what I said before was that another reason I'm so excited is because she has this amazing class coming up. And anyone interested, I wanted to give people a taste of what her teaching's like. So I'm going to make sure everyone's muted, and I'm turning over to you. I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Millman, and everybody mute, but I'm going to mute as well. I mean, I'm going to mute anyone who doesn't. Okay, you're all set.
Okay, just give me a few moments to get my screen shared. And I don't need to unmute myself, right? I could still hear Lee. I think we should mute everyone. Margie. Okay, so Margie, can you see the big slides?
Yes, everything's perfect. I see you. I see the big slides, and we are in good shape. Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So welcome everyone to today's masterclass on oxalates. I'm so happy that everyone is here and took the time to come. So from my point of view, the oxalate discussion is really the elephant in the room. So I have personally and professionally avoided this subject for many, many years because of the fact that oxalates are found in so many healthy foods. And it was the last thing that I wanted to do was to recommend that people start to take these foods out of their diet. But oxalates are central to the metabolism of calcium and other minerals that are very important for your bones. And it can be a reason why you can't absorb your calcium and other minerals. And so it can also be damaging to tissues, causing pain and inflammation and migratory symptoms that just don't make any sense. And so I thought that it was important to start looking at oxalates and to at least educate people on the subject. And I want to really emphasize to people, this is not something that everyone needs to do. And I think that there really is a process to figure out whether it is important for you. And I'm going to teach you the process that I've developed over the last few years. So in the webinar, we're going to be describing oxalates and how they damage tissues and cause pain and inflammation, the symptoms that you might have if you were having problems with oxalates. We're going to go over a list of the top oxalate foods, and we're going to, I'm going to give you a validated oxalate food chart when you go to my site. And then I'm going to give you some practical guidance on what you can do to reduce oxalates if you decide that that's something that is right for you. So what are oxalates? Oxalates are the same thing as oxalic acid. They are little crystals. They are very small. They're like shards of glass. They can lodge into any tissue, and they cause tissue inflammation, damage, and pain. They also bind to our important minerals and other nutrients, especially calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, and some B vitamins. Oxalates are found in plants. And it's interesting because the plant mechanism is that if the groundwater is too rich in calcium, then the oxalates act like a calcium sink. So the oxalates bind to calcium and then take it away from the metabolism of the plant, and then the plant can grow normally. And oxalates are found in many vegetables, a variety of seeds, nuts, beans, and fruits. They're highly reactive. They are attracted positively to charged minerals and some B vitamins, as I just described, and they can cause nutrient deficiencies. They really are not just a worry for kidney stones. They have multiple effects throughout the body, and it can be related to even just mineral imbalances. And then it can affect your muscles and your joints and your connective tissues. It can cause inflammation anywhere, can be a trigger for autoimmunity. It can change and degrade your mitochondrial function, which is the power source or the energy source of your cell. It can affect your circulation, your heart, your vasculature. It can affect your thyroid and other glands like your adrenals, and it absolutely affects your urinary tract all along it, including kidney and ureter and bladder. And it can cause paralyzed gut and poor gut function. Just to show you all of the symptoms and the different multiple organ systems that oxalates can affect, I've prepared these two charts. And so just in general, it can cause fatigue and sleep issues. You can be slow to heal, feeling weak, all kinds of circulation issues like having cold hands and cold feet, and even having heart palpitations, all kinds of things to the musculoskeletal system, and especially pain. So if you're having pain in migratory areas, it moves around, it comes and goes, it changes in severity, then that's very suspicious. Can cause low muscle mass, which we know is bad for our bones, and can cause problems with your tendons and your joints, all kinds of issues with brain function and peripheral neuropathies, whether it be in the central nervous system or whether it be in the peripheral nervous system. Oxalates can really bind anywhere. Eyes, you can have a gritty feeling like you've got a foreign body sensation in your eyes. Definitely watery eyes, red, having blurry vision. You can have TMJ, clenching, gum inflammation, sinus pressure, hearing deficits, and with the bones, it can affect the bones in the spine, in the hips, in the teeth, and can cause brittleness and even cysts. The immune system, it can be a trigger for autoimmunity. It can cause food sensitivities, chemical sensitivities. It can calcify within the kidneys, causing kidney stones. It can cause calcinosis, which is calcium deposits around your joints. Excessive dental tartar in the skin can cause all kinds of things with like rashes and hives, and hypersensitivity in the skin, wrinkling, and a whole host of digestive issues, because it does paralyze the guts, but it can cause diarrhea and constipation and bloating. A grainy looking stools is very, very suspicious for being oxalates because the oxalates are kind of grainy themselves. It can be, you can have pain and burning, a leaky gut. It can cause imbalances in the microbiome. It can cause even ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. And the kidney bladder is very, very specific to oxalates. So if you have urinary tract infections that seem chronic and you go to the doctor, there's no bacteria there, then that's very suspicious of an oxalate toxicity, something called interstitial cystitis, which is not a urinary tract infection, but it is pain in the bladder, is very, very suspicious for interstitial cystitis. urgency, incontinence, blood. Definitely, if you have a urinalysis and you see calcium oxalate crystals, obviously that's a dead giveaway. And then vulvodynia and prostatitis. So vulvodynia is pain in the vulvar area, and it can be quite severe. And really, we don't really have a reason why that can occur. And sometimes it can be from oxalate toxicity. So the problem is as you've seen in the last two slides, oxalates can cause symptoms in almost any body system, and many of these symptoms overlap with other conditions. So it's very difficult from a symptom perspective whether or not you have an oxalate toxicity. However, one of the things that you can look at is the migratory pain as something that would be suspicious, and anything occurring in the bladder or the kidney, urinary area, vulvodynia, interstitial cystitis, kidney stones, of course, having problems with digestion. And of course, one of the biggest thing is having multiple symptoms in multiple body systems. So when you go to those two slides, okay, I've got something neurologically, I've got something circulation, I've got something kidney, bladder, maybe that all could be related to oxalates. And if that's happening for you, then going on a low oxalate diet for some time and doing some oxalate clearance, just empirically to find out if that's a problem for you could be a reasonable approach. So I'd like to go through a list of the top foods so that you really understand and I'm not going to do this in detail because of course you're going to have the resource, which is a validated oxalate food chart from Harvard. But just wanted to go through a few of the really, really top foods. So when I think about oxalates, of course, I'm thinking about greens like spinach and Swiss chard and beet greens, and there are a few more. Nuts, almonds and cashews are very high. There can be beans that are high and moderate. Raspberries used to be high. It's been recategorized. And so, but there can be many of these top oxalate foods that you're going to find on the validated food chart that you're going to have as a resource. So one thing that I think about when I look to take the second part of are oxalates important for you? The first part is, do you have oxalate symptoms? The second part is, how much oxalates do you get in your food? So you can use a free app called Chronometer, and you can put in your daily diet, and then it will give you an estimate of how much oxalates you have in your food. And I like to think of these in different categories. So there was a study that showed that anything over 250 milligrams per day of oxalates in your food increase the 24-hour urinary oxalates from somewhere all the way up to 40, and I've forgotten the units, but 40 per 24 hours, I think is milligrams, 40 milligrams per 24 hours. And that is considered high. So we can excrete about 250 milligrams of oxalates. And so anything over that is really high. When you're having, just for example, a half a cup of spinach is around 750 milligrams. So it's really high. So if you're having spinach every day, and a half cup is not very much of spinach, if you're having a handful of almonds, if you're having a spinach smoothie with almond milk every day, then you may be in this very high oxalate category. And so it's a good idea to find out what category you're in. And also if you want to reduce oxalates, because that you've made a decision that is important for you. Again, it's not important for everyone, but you've made a decision to do that. It's good to know that what these categories are, and that you can reduce. Say you're at 500, you can reduce down to 250 for a while, reduce down to 100, and then low oxalate diet is considered 50 milligrams per day. So not only is it important of how much you consume, but obviously it's important of how much you absorb. So there are soluble oxalates and there are insoluble oxalates. So soluble oxalates are the ones that are absorbable, and insoluble oxalates are the ones that are bound to usually calcium and magnesium and potassium, and they are passed through the stool. And so one of the things that can happen is that if fat is not absorbed, like if you have fat malabsorption, then the fat will come and bind to the calcium and the magnesium, thereby leaving more thereby leaving more soluble oxalates to absorb. So you have to make sure that your gut is working properly and that you don't have fat malabsorption. And as I teach in my class, if you do have fat malabsorption, you can use a digestive enzyme like LipoGold, which has lipase in it, which will help to break down the fats so that you can absorb your fats, and then they're not going to bind to your minerals. And that way you're going to keep your oxalates insoluble, so you get rid of them in your stool. Also, because leaky gut can cause, it can increase absorption just because the tight junctions are no longer a good barrier against the oxalates, and the oxalates can come through the cells instead of coming through the microvilli, which is the proper way to absorb. So your microbiome is also important in your oxalate health. So there are strains of bacteria that degrade oxalates, and there's called oxalate-specific bacteria and then the non-oxalate-specific bacteria. The one that is specific is called Oxalobacter formigenes. And it is very, very sensitive to some of the antibiotics that are often used for upper respiratory infections. And these include the macrolides. And you may have taken one of these macrolides in the past, erythromycin or azithromycin. And this will basically decrease the concentration of this very important bacteria. And once this bacteria is gone, the bacteria will be in your gut and it will be degrading your oxalates that are there in your gut. And then you will have less of the oxalates that will actually be absorbed. And they have looked at studies where they've looked at people who have a significant burden of Oxalobacter formigenes and those who are no longer colonized with it, and they see much bigger increases in 24-hour urine oxalates after a challenge with oxalates. So it is very important. But again, a lot of people have lost this bacteria through antibiotic use. And at this point, there is no probiotic that includes it, although they are looking at this bacteria in research studies, and it is an important area of research. There are a couple of other bacteria that they're looking at, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, GG, and I think that's in ProBiomed 50. And some of you in my class, we talk about the Supergut book, which Dr. Davis talks about, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, GG. Also, Bifidobacteria lactis has been one. Lactobacillus paracasei. So in as far as in emerging research, they're looking at the bacteria that actually can be supplanted as probiotics that can help to break down the oxalates. And it is an important area of research that can be promising for later. But at this point, I like Probiomed 50 as being able to just increasing your probiotic strains. SIBO and SIFO can also be contributors and increasing the absorption of oxalates, and fungus and yeast and mold, including candida, produce oxalates. And so that is another reason to look at your microbiome and have good gut health. Okay, so then there is the amount of oxalates that come from dietary contributions, and how much we absorb is related to some of the things that we just talked about, including our gut health. But not only do we get oxalates from our diet, but we also make them inside our body. So there's an estimate that that our dietary contribution is about 50%, and that our endogenous synthesis, what we make in our bodies, is about 50%. And they've looked at studies to find out what are these dietary precursors that actually contribute to the production of oxalates within our body. And it's thought to be that some of the genetic, it's called hyperoxaluria. Some of these people who have genetics who make too much oxalates in their body, and they have recurrent kidney stones, and they actually get kidney damage quite early. They have problems with being able to degrade oxalates, and they make oxalates too readily. And so as far as endogenous oxalate production, one of the things that the research studies have bore out is that ascorbic acid, taking vitamin C as ascorbic acid, is about 50% of the contribution to endogenous production of oxalates. And the studies have shown that 2 grams of vitamin C, either from supplements and from diet, is around the sweet spot. So if you take more than 2 grams of vitamin C per day, then it can increase your endogenous synthesis. And then the other major contribution is hydroxyproline. And hydroxyproline is the component that is in gelatin. So this is not only collagen, but it is also bone broth contains a lot of gelatin. Now, its contribution, its dietary precursor contribution is only 15% to the endogenous synthesis. But interestingly enough, I had a patient who was having some symptoms that she thought might be related to oxalates. And so she went on a low oxalate diet, and we measured, and I'm going to go into the testing options next, but she measured her 24-hour urine oxalate level, and it was 40, and 30 is normal. So she was a little bit high. And 3 months later, her oxalate level went up to 60. So we were a little bit perplexed as to why her dietary oxalate level had gone down, but yet she was showing a higher oxalate burden. And one of the things that she realized was that she had started collagen right around the time. Now, this just recently happened a few months ago. And so I told her that, you know, maybe it's a good idea to go off the collagen for a few months, and we'll retest and we'll really find out if it's from the collagen or not. And she was very reluctant to go off of the collagen for very good reason. And so whether or not this is a problem for anyone, this is a very minor contribution. But I want to just have the information out there. So how can you test for oxalate burden? You can do a 24-hour urine oxalate level. And so more than 38 per 24 hours of oxalates is high. And then citric acid is something that inhibits the stone production or crystal production. So it inhibits calcium in the blood from forming a stone with the oxalates. So we want our citric acid to actually be high. And the level in the 24-hour urine that we want to see is 600 milligrams. And these are the two tests that nephrologists do when they're following people with kidney stones, and nephrologists are kidney doctors. And they recommend somewhere between 1 and 2 juiced lemons in water per day to bring up the citric acid, and also show you some other things that I recommend as well. Okay, so how do you figure out if you have an oxalate problem? So the first thing is you look at your diet and put it into categories. And are you moderately high or are you above that in your oxalate dietary contribution? What about your oxalate symptoms? Are any of them severe? Anything that's really suggestive of oxalate toxicity, like those that I talked about earlier. When a person is deficient in calcium, then the 24-hour urine oxalates will be higher. So having enough calcium in your diet and through supplements is very important. And then magnesium and potassium as well. Do you have any gut dysfunction, any kind of dysfunction in the gut that would contribute to a higher absorption level of oxalates? And do you have a fair amount of dietary contributions that could be pushing your endogenous synthesis of oxalates high, like taking a lot of ascorbic acid or having a lot of bone broth or collagen? Having a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet for a long period of time, that can put you at risk. And then when you look at the testing, is your testing high? So I want to absolutely encourage people to understand that not everyone needs to do these things, that oxalates are not necessarily a problem for everyone. It's not as if I'm saying that anyone with bone disease has a problem with oxalates. It's something to be on your radar, and it really can potentially improve your health. And if you have a high oxalate diet, there's some ways to mitigate it. And so I think I just like the idea of having not having a very, very high oxalate diet, but then doing things in moderation. And whether moderation means, in this case, moderation would be oxalate foods. So moderation of spinach, moderation of almonds. And then when you're having these high oxalate foods, you do something to mitigate it. So what are some options to reduce the dietary oxalates? And so you have a few options. You can look at the very, very high oxalate foods like your spinach and beet greens and Swiss chard and quinoa, and some of almonds. And then you can take a few of these very, very high oxalate foods and swap them out with low to medium foods. You can reduce the frequency. If you have a spinach salad 3 times a week and a spinach smoothie 2 times a week, you can reduce the frequency. And also, if you are really looking at trying to reduce oxalates to get to a low oxalate point. You don't want to do this dramatically, because what can happen is that the tissues can start to dump oxalates. This is called oxalate dumping. So if your oxalate contribution goes low and your tissues still have a lot of oxalates in it, then the tissues don't really dump when the bloodstream has a fair amount of oxalates in it, but they start to dump when the bloodstream gets clear of oxalates. So you want to do this over a slow period of time, or you could get sick from the oxalate dumping. There are different kinds of things that you can do to reduce the absorption of the oxalates when you have a meal that might be and have a higher amount of oxalates. So you can take somewhere between 150 and 300 milligrams of calcium citrate. Citrate is the best form. You can also take magnesium citrate. To be careful with magnesium citrate because it can cause loose stools, and then potassium citrate as well. You can do food combining. So you can take high oxalate food and combine it with a food that has quite a lot of calcium, and then the calcium will bind to the oxalates and reduce the absorption. There are a lot of different cooking cooking methods. So you can boil vegetables, and then you take the water and you discard the water, and a lot of the water has the oxalates in it. And you can steam, and you can soak overnight. So those are really good ways to reduce the oxalate content in the food. Fermentation and sprouting, those are good ways to reduce oxalate content. You can cook in milk. Of course, that's because of the calcium. Macerating with whey, of course, that's because of the calcium as well. And you also want to drink plenty of water to flush the oxalates out of the system, because remember, a lot of the oxalates that are absorbed tend to go through the kidneys. So if you don't get very much calcium from your diet, like I just said, you can take calcium with a high oxalate meal. You can add lemon juice to your foods and to your smoothies to increase the citric acid so that you're not forming stones. And I really don't think it's a good idea to have a very, very high oxalate diet where you would be having spinach and almonds on a regular daily basis. So I feel like swapping out some low and medium oxalate foods for high oxalate foods is a very good idea. So I like this electrolyte repletion. With it is from Trace Minerals. It's called 40,000 volts, and it has boron, sulfate, magnesium, and potassium in it. And so that is going to replete some of the minerals that get depleted with oxalates. And then if you squeeze a half a lemon, you take a teaspoon of 40,000 volts, you squeeze a half a lemon and into a big thing of water and drink that throughout the day. That can be a good way to start repleting those minerals. And so I have a little recipe for you. In addition, you may want to specifically look at calcium. I really like the form of calcium in the dimalate form, and magnesium. You can do citrates, dimalates. Potassium would be citrate and bicarbonate. And one of the B vitamins that really gets depleted is B6, and you want to take the active form of B6 as P5P. So some other strategies would be drinking plenty of hydrating beverages and water, adding lemon juice to the water so that you get enough citric acid. You want to address any kind of gut dysbiosis and clear candida. You can take probiotics with Bifidobacterium lactis, and ProbioMed 50 does have that probiotic in it. Ox bile is something that you can take for reducing the fat malabsorption. Something like lipase is also something that you can do. You can take B6 in the form of P5P, but be very careful because doses above 300 milligrams of P5P can be neurotoxic. So I did want to share some benefits that a few of my students have had. So I had a student who was having urinary tract infections almost monthly, and she would take a urinary a urinalysis, and sometimes there would be bacteria, and other times there were not bacteria. So she was constantly taking antibiotics, it was breaking down her gut. And then she listened to the talk on oxalates and she thought, well, I might as well give it a try and just go on a low oxalate diet. And her chronic UTIs went away. So she was very thankful, not only just to have the information, but she was really worried about what chronic antibiotic use was going to do to her health long term. And so it made her feel very empowered, and she was very grateful. Another student of mine was just eating exceptionally healthy. She was having spinach salads a lot, and she was eating beets and almonds. And she had chronic, moderate to severe neck pain that was, it had been going on for decades. And she went on a low oxalate diet, and most of that neck pain disappeared. And so she was actually a chiropractor, and she told her chiropractor about it. And they were both really, really quite thrilled that it was a dietary solution, and it was empowering for her. Another student had chronic leg pain, and it was soreness, and it was getting in the way of her being as active as she wanted to be. And that leg pain and that leg soreness, and it was kind of heaviness as well, that went away when she went on a low oxalate diet. Now, I don't know that this is going to be a solution for something that's going on with you, but it is important to be informed that this is a possibility. And it doesn't take very much effort to go on a low oxalate diet and do the repletion strategies. And so, it is worth a try, especially if you have some of these like interstitial cystitis or vulvodynia or kidney stones or chronic UTIs. It's worth a try. And so I am going to be giving you these resources. I did produce these for my program. We have an oxalate symptom and food assessment, which can go through and you can try to figure out whether some of the symptoms that you have are indicative of oxalates. Again, there's a lot of overlap between oxalate symptoms and other chronic conditions. And there's a food assessment. So how often are you eating these very high oxalate foods? And we give you a scale to look at that. And we, within an email stream, we're also giving you some additional information about how to get onto Chronometer and also how to categorize your oxalate levels into those categories that I showed you. And then if you're finding that you're having some high oxalate foods, all you want to do is just do some swapping out of very high oxalate foods with some low to medium. We have this validated food chart that was from Harvard that was just updated in 2023. And we have the updated chart. So you can do the food swapping with that chart. And then all the things that I was talking about as far as mitigation strategies, we've got some guided email support around that. All you need to do in order to get these two resources is go to themillmanclinic.com/oxalates, and you'll get about a 6 or 7 day email stream with all of these resources and helpful tips for helping you to learn about oxalates. And if you have found this information really valuable, my Restore and Rebuild 100 Days to Healthier Bones program, where Margie is a co-host, we would love to have you. It goes into depth in many areas of root cause analysis of bone loss, and with ways to test and ways to mitigate. And there's a great community. We have alumni staying with us for year to year. And, we love the community that we've built. But basically, it's 14 weeks long. There's 10 weeks of content with 10 weeks of Q&A. People rave about my resources. I have not only handouts, I have self-assessments, I have custom algorithms that I've made, because I used to be a molecular modeler, a mathematical modeler when I was an engineer. And we've got custom coded interactive tools that we have within the program. And we do start August 17th. That's just kind of really right around the corner. And we're going to have our Q&As on Thursday at 3. So you can go to the Millman Clinic /R&R. It's $697 until August 12th. So that is next Monday. I may extend early bird even further, and absolutely use Margie's code, which is HappyBonesF24, and you'll get $100 off. And then Margie really wanted me to give something to the people who are live here today, because you really have taken the time out of your schedule. And we love it when you're live with us, because we love to see your beautiful faces and we love to hear your questions. And so the Reduce Oxalate Burden handout is basically, how do you mitigate oxalate toxicity if this is a problem for you? There's some data in there about chronometer and how to categorize your oxalate levels, learning about oxalate dumping and how to best decrease your oxalate dietary contribution over time. And then there are 6 more strategies about how to improve oxalate clearance. And so we've got a small little bit.ly link, and that it's bit.ly. So it's bit.ly and then reduce-oxalates. And that's where you're going to be able to find that gift. And so we would love to turn it over to questions. And I would like to ask people to ask questions really about the topic at hand, which would be just about oxalates. Please don't share medical information. I cannot give you medical advice. And we would like for you to limit your questions to just one apiece, one per person.
Okay. Okay, so just get rid of your slides. Okay. And hi, everybody. How's everybody doing here? A lot of information, but the thing I just want to say, and that was fantastic, Dr. Millman. What I just want to say is that why we talk about this is because I've seen so many people sharp pain in their feet, different symptoms, and you can live your whole life and then, find out later on, oh my gosh, this was missed. So once both Dr. Millman and I realized that we can't ignore this, we'd like to throw this conversation away, but the truth is that too many people are impacted and there's so much that can be done. So that's the reason. And yeah, before we get started though, there's a couple people, Dr. Millman, I see who've been in your class. And I just think it's such a great class. Because years ago, Dr. Millman and I, years ago, we had talked about, I'm just going to change this. Well, I guess I'll leave this for a second. Years ago, I had asked Dr. Millman, because I have a problem. I want to have 1 million of you, and people want to work with functional medicine doctors. And there just aren't that many who specialize in osteoporosis and know exactly what needs to be done. So I was like, is there any way you can do a class? And she's like, well, I'll think about it, and lo and behold, I don't know how many years later, all of a sudden she goes, by the way, you have a class. And it was way beyond my expectations. So it's been 3 times now. 3 times? No, twice.
Yeah,
Wait,
3 times.
3 times,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been 3 times. And it's just, it complements for people who are in my community. It just totally complements what we do, because it's just wonderful. Like she did today, gives the information. But as you'll see, the Q&A part really helps you figure out issues. But is there anyone here I see a couple people. Does anyone, before I ask a question, anyone been to her class that wants to say anything to share? Let's see. Is that you, Susan? Have you been to the class? All right. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna put you on. Let me add the pin here.
Yeah, for Susan Andrus. Yeah, for sure. Have Susan
So-
come on.
Susan's coming on.
I have a question, but I've also done the class twice, as I know several people have, and it is phenomenal. It just, I think I'm going to take a break for this next round, but I know I'm going to miss it, so I'm going to jump in when you do it again. I was really amazed by how much new content there was. You provided such a thorough overview of every topic, and you were so generous with your Q&As, and you still went above and beyond the second time around. So I highly, highly encourage anyone who's on the fence. And it is just a really nice community of mostly women. So it's amazing. So thank you.
You can ask your question, Susan, while you're up here.
Okay, so my question is, I'm still trying to hunt down the possible causes for my high oxalates, and I recognize the info that you provided in that little case study. But my question is, what do you think of the potential for vitamin C serum on one's skin to potentially contribute to endogenous oxalates?
Well, the study showed that anything under 2 grams was okay. It was not increasing 24-hour urinary excretion until it was above 2 grams. So I know that there are people who do, very, very high vitamin C levels. And again, so ascorbic acid was contributing 50% to the endogenous oxalates, and hydroxyproline was only 15%. I would just not think that vitamin C serum would have that high of an oxalate of an ascorbic acid content in it.
I mean, I wouldn't either. And your concern is still more with supplementation than with any vitamin C in your diet, correct?
I think you have to look. I think you would have to.
You think you have to look at both?
Yeah,
okay.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. And I don't think that many people need to look at endogenous, synthesis, but some people may.
Right.
I just don't know who those people are. And I think as we get more case studies and as more people share about what they're finding, then maybe we all as a community can find that out. And I think that that's kind of another one of the wonderful things about the program is that everyone's so willing to share, and everyone really wants to help everyone else. And I can't say that and Susan, you've been amazing. And, there are so many other, Susan would send me articles all the time. And it was the weirdest thing, because I would literally say, Susan, you and I must have been reading the exactly same article at exactly the same time. She would send me this article and I was like, I just read that article.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
so that's kind of, how we interact with each other, which is really good. But yeah, I think I don't think we know yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I love the community as well. I've learned so much from being in your class, and not just from you. That's what's so beautiful. And I think, both Dr. Millman and I are being about people being empowered and being empowered to, okay, we'll deal with our ulcer, but everything else gets better. That's what's so great. But everybody shares and everybody learns from each other and everybody grows. And it's just such a great situation. Okay, let's see. We have lots of questions here. Do you want to say, Marty? I know Marty's also taken the class, but do you have a question too?
Yeah, Marty,
Yeah.
Marty.
Well,
Where you're from? Marty's here from Australia.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
hi.
Yeah, but
I
it's
agree.
like I know what time it is. I think it's 9 o'clock in the morning.
Correct.
8:50. It's 8:57.
Correct. Yep. It's a good time actually for me. I'm glad you have it at this time. So yeah, I agree with everything that Susan said. I've attended the course twice, and I'm the same as Susan. I've decided to give this coming course a miss, and I'm not sure I'm making the right decision, but I think I'm going to miss being able to ask the questions. But I've sort of made the decision because I need to go through all the course content because there's so much information, and I've never really revised everything. So I'm sure there are things there that will answer some of my questions that I've kind of missed or forgotten or whatever. So that's why I've decided to give it a miss. But I'm sure I'm going to miss the course in doing that. But
Well, that's because Marty is an overachiever.
I don't know. I like to understand what I'm. Yeah. But yeah, if anyone is just thinking about it and not sure and hasn't done the course, I would urge you to just do it because there's so much information, so much you learn. It's just, yeah, and you're always learning, even when you do it second time, the third time, there's always something new. So yeah.
That's because I'm always learning.
Yeah, well, we're all always learning. It's great.
Yeah.
I always used to I always look forward to coming to your classes. So that's why I'm thinking I'm gonna miss it, but I will be attending the following one, I'm sure.
You'll be back in spring.
I'll be back. So, yeah. So my question, I guess, is apple cider vinegar also combats oxalates, doesn't it?
Does it?
I don't know. Does it? I thought it did, or maybe it doesn't.
And I've never seen that.
Oh,
But
okay.
also realize that the majority of the literature is really coming from the kidney stone people, right? So they're not looking at it in as holistic of a view as we do. Yeah. So it very well could. Yeah.
All right. So okay. I don't know why I got into my head that it did.
What
Maybe it doesn't.
it might be glyphosate because it has been shown to reduce the effects of glyphosate.
Could be. Yeah. Maybe I'm confusing it with something else. Yeah. Okay. Because I've started doing. My question was going to be whether balsamic vinegar does the same, but obviously if apple cider vinegar doesn't. I don't think balsamic vinegar
Well,
does.
I know that what the citric acid, and again, as far as the kidney stones goes, is that it stops the calcium in the blood from super saturating with the oxalates and forming calcium oxalate crystals. That doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, my understanding is that the oxalates by themselves can still lodge into tissues without the calcium. So.
Okay.
Okay,
All
Sonia says, according to a 2019 study, vinegar consumption may prevent calcium oxalate kidney stones by increasing urine citrate levels. And, well, maybe. Citrate is known to inhibit calcium oxalate crystallization, exactly. Well, calcium is a component and promoter, right? Another study found that vinegar can reduce calcium oxalate stones by regulating acetate metabolism. Maybe, yeah. So Sonia seems to think that she has some literature to show that vinegar does as well.
So I guess even balsamic vinegar, because I've been making this drink with sparkling water and vinegar, and
Ah.
and it's a Dr. Gundry recipe. He calls it fake Coke.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
sparkling water, balsamic vinegar. You can have apple cider vinegar too if you want. And I've been putting in some lemon juice in it too to make it more. Yeah. So yeah, it tastes nice actually. So,
You
All
want to
right, Marty. Well, we're going to move on to Annette.
Yep.
Nice to
thank
see you.
you. Thank you.
Hi, Annette.
Hi, I'm also an alumni and I've taken the class 2 times and I'm going to take it again because there's just so much to learn. I'm just so grateful for this class because it's so comprehensive and Dr. Millman is just exceptional. You will learn just so much. So if you're on the fence, I'd strongly recommend that you take the class because I mean, I just learned a little bit more today about my oxalate problem. So I'm grateful to find out that the ascorbic acid raises the oxalates. So I'm going to be decreasing that. But Dr. Moon, I was wondering, my question is,
Thank you, Annette.
if you have, you're very welcome. I'm so grateful. If you do have your high oxalates, will that bring your calcium urine up?
Oh, I tried to find that data. I was wondering the same thing myself. I think that it does. It depends on how supersaturated the urine is of calcium and of oxalates. And as the more supersaturated it is, I think that it does, but I'd have to just punt that question for later because I think that I saw that it did, but I'm not remembering what study it was and to what degree, et cetera. But I think it does.
Okay, yeah, because my oxalates jumped way up because I started taking a lot of ascorbic acid and my calcium went up 100 points. So I was just shocked. So I'm going to try.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to let us know what experimentation happens, how that experiment goes. I'd be fascinated.
Yes, I'll definitely. Yep. I will let you know in the class.
That's
And
very
again,
awesome.
all right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Kate, you're next.
Hi. I signed up for the class, my first time kind of newbie to the both to Margie's community and have found your community, Dr. Millman, in your class through Margie. So very grateful for that. And looking forward to learning lots more. My question about, and new to oxalates, so as I am determining the amount in my diet, I have like an almond-based shredded cheese product from Trader Joe's that I use. So how do you approximate? I couldn't find any of it on the by looking it up online. What's the best estimation of oxalate?
I have to say that it is difficult if you I was trying to find almond flour as opposed to just a handful of almonds, right? And it was difficult to find it, but there are some variations in chronometer. And I think Marty's one of like the experts in chronometer and oxalates, but probably, I mean, you'd almost have to know like how many teaspoons of almond paste there is, and then know what I mean, I would just say that it probably isn't a good idea to have that as something that you do all the time and you just make a guesstimation. Sometimes that's just the best we can do. And this is not an easy thing, you know? And then the Harvard charts, they're not complete, and they have pages and pages and pages of all these cereals, you know, that none of us eat. and then they don't have as much as the healthy whole foods that we eat. And so we've got, we've got to figure it out on our own.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Nice. Look forward to seeing you in class. Carol, you're next.
Clarify. Have you heard of calcium hydroxyapatite deposition? It's like calcium deposits. Like I just had this between my toes, and it actually, Margie mentioned about feet. I mean, I couldn't walk last week because of it. I was just wondering if that could have been caused by the oxalates.
Well, so hydroxyapatite is actually what our bones are made out of.
No.
Right. So that's a combination of calcium and phosphorus. And so, that could be maybe, it might be that is one of the, did you go to a rheumatologist and
Yes.
they checked,
Yes.
and instead of finding gout, they found this other thing?
Yes. I had an MRI and an X-ray, and I went to a rheumatologist. Yeah. So
it might be something to try. I mean, why not?
you mean to lower the oxalates?
Yeah, why not?
It might make it go away. It's just
I gotta say, it takes a long time too. It could take a year, it could take 6 months, it could take a year, but as far as the symptoms starting to subside, the symptoms could start subsiding in weeks to months. But in order for it to fully flush out of the tissue, it can take some time.
It's funny because I also just recently got the osteoporosis diagnosis, and they're kind of, like I don't have enough calcium in one place, and then it's showing up where it shouldn't. So
yeah, that is called the calcium paradox.
Oh,
and there are many research studies on the calcium paradox, and you look like an amazing artist.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm signing up for your class. Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, we'll see you then.
I was going to say, I love the painting. And did you do that in the back? It's beautiful.
Yeah, can you see her? She's got all of her brushes and everything to the other side of her.
I couldn't walk, so I had to set up something close. Yeah. Anyway, I'm okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. DJ?
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my question.
Sure.
I was wondering if there's a way or a source to kind of quantify the impact of oxalates on binding calcium and other minerals in your food. So when you're reading food labels, say there's X amount of calcium in the food, well, say it's a high oxalate food, perhaps almonds or spinach. How much of that calcium is bioavailable to us? Does the oxalate bind everything? Does it bind 20%?
So this is exactly the question that I have really been wondering myself. And I have looked for the data. You really kind of have to look at the pharmacodynamics. You need to look at like binding affinities. The binding affinities are different from food to food. So some foods are more bioavailable than other foods are. So I think that it's a difficult answer to give. I've made a tiny stab at it and just felt like it was just okay. There were more important things that I could spend 100 hours on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So maybe it would be best just to avoid the high oxalate foods if you want to have a decent calcium absorption from your food.
Or you take 150 milligrams. So you take 150 to 300 milligrams of calcium with that that spinach, or I mean, spinach has got a lot of calcium in it, so it's already bound, really. But if you've got something that's high oxalates without a lot of calcium in it, you take the calcium, you're trying to bind that up. And so I mean, that works pretty well. And then adding the citric acid to the food also works as well too.
Oh, I see. So you would be adding calcium to bind up the oxalate.
Yeah.
Maybe
So you
not
would-
necessarily.
So you would turn
your
the
system.
soluble, you would turn the soluble oxalate into an insoluble oxalate, then it would pass through the feces and it wouldn't get absorbed. And you
Oh,
can do that with these big minerals. It doesn't have to be just calcium, it can be magnesium and potassium as well.
okay. So
And then
you
I
should
like the citrate form because you get that citrate part of it as well.
Oh, right. Okay. Which also helps the calcium to absorb better, does it not?
Calcium citrate is a very absorbable form of calcium.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
you want the calcium to absorb to the oxalate. That's why you're
Okay.
taking it.
Oh, okay. But also to absorb into your body so that you're not deficient.
The question about that I can't answer is, okay, you have spinach, or I can't even think of an oxalate that doesn't have a lot of calcium in it. Okay, so you have spinach and you add some calcium citrate. That calcium citrate is going to bind the oxalate. And now maybe I don't know how much I don't know how much calcium binds how much oxalate, and how much oxalate is left soluble, and how much calcium actually gets absorbed into your body. I don't really know that. But the studies do show that it's somewhere around 150 to 300 milligrams of calcium that you should take at the same time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good start anyway. Thanks.
You're welcome. There's Irma. Hi, Irma.
Hello, Dr. Millman. Margie, thank you for this. This is incredible. I'm so impressed with the work the two of you are doing and how you're putting it out there. So I have taken the class twice. I want to give an example of when Margie says this empowers us. 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I went to visit Dr. Lauren Fishman in New York City. Lovely man. He wrote Yoga for Osteoporosis. I think that's the name of his book. And he was very consumed about his yoga and the positive aspects of it. And I joined the study. This is not about Dr. Fishman, but what I wanted to say is I said to him, there's conversation out there in the world about leaky gut. He said, what are you talking about? Leaky gut. No one has leaky gut. You're talking about like what? The food gets into your system and what happens? There's no way. So now we know that leaky gut exists. And the empowerment from the class comes from listening over and over again and hearing terminology and saying, wait a minute, my medical doctor may not know that. So I have to go where I can find support in my search. And that's what this class does. So I highly recommend it. I just wanted to share that with everybody, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Irma.
Yeah, thank you, Irma. Irma, I have to just give a little plug to Irma. So I'm a physical therapist. I've been working, oh gosh, I mean, over 25 years with osteoporosis. But then when I went back to school for health coaching, because I really wanted to learn more, who was the first person that started up that I learned from, actually, and that was Irma, because way back we met and she's been doing this as a health coach. So Irma and I go way, way, way back. So everybody works together here. We all increase our knowledge and we all share. And you've done a lot too, Irma, sharing such wonderful things with the world. And that's what we're here for. We're really here to all help each other out and empower each other, just like you said. And now I believe knowledge is power, and it's not overwhelmed because you can take action. No one asks you to do too much at one time, one step at a time. And that's how things get done. But anyway, I just had to say that. So anyway, okay, continue, Dr. Millman, on your question.
Well, Cheryl has this kind of interesting question. So I just wanted to kind of clear this up. So if your concern is more about increasing calcium intake for bone density and issues, then shouldn't you just stay away from high oxalate foods since none of the calcium absorbed? Yes, maybe. And then when you take the calcium, I mean, some people are just going to miss their spinach and their almonds, and they're going to want to have them every once in a while. So when you take the calcium with the spinach, or you take the calcium with your almonds, you're not counting that as your 800 to 100 calcium that you're getting in for the day, right? It's not, it's in addition to that. And Judy says, well, maybe gut dysbiosis is better for talking to doctors, but dysbiosis is not the same thing as intestinal permeability. They're different. So it's not technically correct. Okay, Christine.
Hi. Thank you very much for this. This is very interesting for me. Very, very interesting. I have osteoporosis, and I had been reading that that there's a lot of calcium in spinach, and you had mentioned that today. But what about the oxalates? I just read recently that cooking will lower the amount of oxalates. So, I mean, how much is okay for a meal? So, for example, they had said that 1 cup of cooked spinach is equal to 5 cups of raw spinach. So, and which is a really good thing for your body. But I'm just had this question about the reduction of the oxalates by cooking.
Yeah, so I presented that slide and I didn't actually go into the really nitty details about so for different foods, it's different, and that's why it's difficult, right? So if you're soaking beans overnight, then a certain percentage of the oxalates will be gone. If you're boiling the beans, then for a couple of hours afterwards, there's going to be a certain percentage that is going to be reduced. Oddly enough, in the Harvard food chart, raw spinach and cooked spinach, they say that there's the same number of milligrams of oxalates in both, which was strange to me. And so, yes, it is very true that these cooking methods can help decrease the oxalates in the food. And also remember, I was talking about if you're not dairy sensitive, you can add milk. I mean, all these cultures, right? What have they done when they have vegetarian cultures like the Southern Indians? I don't know if it's Northern or Southern India that's vegetarian. I can never remember. But the Indian cultures that are vegetarian, what do they do with their spinach? They cream it, right? They put cream and they put lemon juice and all kinds of other spices. And so they do that as a protective method, to bind up these oxalates. So definitely there's without a doubt, but it is exceptionally difficult to give some exact numbers. It's really, really difficult. But yet 250 milligrams a day is anything over that is going to increase the urinary excretion of calcium, which means that you can't get rid of more than 250 milligrams a day, and it's going to accumulate in your tissues. So I can't quite answer your question, but I hope what I said helped.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Jill, the Harvard chart, we actually reproduced and and it's in the resources. So if you go to the millmanclinic.com/oxalates and you get into that email stream, then we're giving that away on the first email. Okay, Christine. Oh, was that Christine okay. Are we at Kyoko? Hi, Kyoko.
Hi. Thank you for taking my question.
Yeah.
Probably it's also hard to answer, but how about soaking nuts? Does that help?
Yeah, it's the same thing. And that was also on the chart. Yeah, that was
I
also
saw the beans and then also so help.
Yes, it will definitely. Any kind of soaking overnight, some of the oxalates are going to come out of the beans and the nuts and the
Okay.
seeds. And then and then you have to discard that liquid, right? And then
Yes.
whenever you boil something, the oxalates are further going to go into the liquid. And if you discard the liquid, the oxalates go away. Now, I know sometimes, people are making soups and stews and things like that. But so then it makes it even more important to do the soaking overnight before.
Just even just the nuts, maybe just soaking and then boiling probably will help before making milk.
Yeah, absolutely. You mean, yeah, I would think so.
Almond
Absolutely.
milk and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Cashew is a little bit high as well. And you can find some people were asking me about which ones are low, which ones are high. It's all in that Harvard food chart.
Okay, so I'm also just wanted to mention that it's interesting that in Japan where I come from, we never eat spinach raw. Yeah, and so always boiling, and then also grains too, just always soak overnight.
Well, the other thing that's quite high is soybeans, right? And so in Japan, is it not true that most of the time it's fermented as tempeh, or it's eaten in very small quantities as a condiment?
Right. Yeah, tempeh we don't do a lot, but just don't do a whole a lot. It's in here and there, but yeah, that's true. Thank you.
And natto, right? Natto
Yes,
is
that's all,
fermented.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tanya, you are next.
Okay. I'm unclear. I love all the information and I'm going to look at it again. When you have high vitamin C intake and high oxalate intake, what is the effect on the serum calcium? I thought I heard you say it goes up, but
we were talking about urine calcium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were talking about urine calcium, and I don't know the answer to that because I like vaguely remember reading it, but don't remember the specifics of it. But so when you have high oxalates in your diet, and then you have high vitamin C, and I would really say that most of it's coming from supplements. If you're looking at more than 2 grams, I think it's mostly coming from supplements, right?
Right.
Then the 15% of the endogenous contribution can go up as well. But are you really in a situation where you have to worry about, oh, I'm sorry, 15% is hydroxyproline, ascorbic acid is 50%. I mean, are you really in the situation where you need to worry about endogenous contributions? For me, I would say you start at the basics first, which is you look at where the bulk of your diet is, right? And if you're eating high oxalate foods every single day and you're way over 250, then then doing that over a long period of time, I don't think is a good idea for your health or for your bones.
Okay. I'll have to look at the chart. The main thing that I'm taking in is almonds.
Yeah.
But I don't think most of the other high oxalate foods.
I can't tell you that I have all of that committed to memory. So
okay. I will look at it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, Sonia.
Hi, I'm wondering how vitamin D and K2 interact with, changing my oxalate levels, and my problem is that I have high blood serum calcium, but low urine output. And so,
anybody who has a high serum calcium needs to look at their PTH.
Yes, that was negative.
Did the data get run through Diva Boone's calculator?
Probably not.
So, okay, so I'm just going to give a scenario, okay?
Okay.
If somebody's calcium is 10.4 and their PTH is 60, that's highly suspicious for hyperparathyroidism. If the calcium is over what I said and the PTH is over what I said, it's even more suspicious. So, Diva Boone has this amazing resource, which I learned from Margie Summit and her talk. And I think it's like Southwest Parathyroid. If you look up Diva Boone and parathyroid calculator, you'll get it. And then you put in your values, and she literally analyzes the data. And so that has to be evaluated. That's much more important than worrying about oxalates.
Okay.
I mean, that's the bigger fish to fry, I think. Wouldn't you not agree with me, Margie?
I would agree with you, and I think Kathy would agree with you too. You want to let's bring Kathy up.
Don't worry about oxalates if you've got a potential parathyroid problem.
Let's bring Kathy up for a second. So after you hear Kathy, you will
Okay. I can't speak highly enough of Dr. Millman's course as well as the other people have spoken. And while I was in the class and working with her as being a patient, I found out that I had hyperparathyroidism by using Dr. Debavoon's calculator. And I got parathyroid surgery, and a measure of bone breakdown is called CTX, and it should be between 250 and 350, and mine was 1027, which is outrageously off the charts and the highest I've ever heard of anybody. And I was freaked
I have someone right now at 1200.
Oh, okay. So I didn't win the game, but I was scared. And I had parathyroid surgery, and it went from 1027 to 369. So it's just a huge night and day difference of, the effect that having elevated calcium and elevated PTH is not a good thing. And not just for your bones, for all kinds of organs in your body.
The other thing, did you also have a question when you're up there? But I just wanted to say something also from the summit. Each time Diva Boone spoke, over 20 people found out that they had hyperparathyroidism, because the doctors don't learn that if the calcium value is over 10, you need to really check this out. They think, oh, if it's a little high, no big deal. But no big deal is losing a lot of bone. So this is something that, yes, right, Dr. Millman, you have to deal with this.
Well, and the thing of it is like, if you have, let's just say that you have a calcium level of 10, your body's natural response, that your parathyroid gland is your calcium sensor. And so your body's natural response is to suppress the PTH down into like the 16 or the 20s, right? And so if you got a calcium value of 10 and your parathyroid is up at 60, and parathyroid at 60 is still normal. Calcium's normal at 10, parathyroid's normal at 60. That is really super suspicious, and doctors will just sit and they won't do anything about it. And I don't remember, Kathy, if it was you or some other, I think it was one of my other patients, but I just had to advocate and just go over and over and over and over. You got to talk to your endocrinologist again, got to talk to them again, got to talk to them again. And we were in like no man's land, and we just had to keep taking serial PTHs and calciums until we found one that would convince them to do something.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. But so many people have thanked me. I've gotten so many thanks from having Diva Boone on the summit. She's also on my podcast, Dr. Diva Boone, Happy Bones. But the point is, you have to be your own advocate, and you can't just trust, oh, my doctor checked my labs, and because it might say normal, because the range is so large, but that's not normal for someone, maybe for someone 30, but not someone. Anyway. We've gone like a half hour. I think there's only a few more questions. Are you okay, Dr. Millman, or should we?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. Wait, Kathy, did you ask your question?
Yeah. But I just want to add one more thing. My calcium was 10.1 and then I pulled it down to 9.7. So I thought I was in the clear, but if it ever it fluctuates. So it doesn't work that way. So you got to be on the lookout. Okay, here's my question. Since you're not supposed to take more than 800 milligrams of calcium a day, and you don't know how much of calcium citrate is binding to the oxalates and how much is being absorbed, would it be safer to take magnesium citrate and then you're not having to worry about any excess going into your system?
Or potassium citrate.
Or potassium, are they safer than calcium citrate?
Probably, but then you've got to be darn sure that your calcium is in the right range still. Like, you don't want your calcium at 8.2, right? I mean, so the study showed that there was higher urine calcium excretion when the calcium was low in the serum. So you can't be deficient in calcium either.
Well, if you're taking CalMag, let's say, enough to get up to 800, then maybe it's better not to take calcium citrate and bumping it up in some way you can't account for.
Yeah, you mean kind of taking potassium citrate. That way you're not, because you don't know how much of the calcium citrate's going to get absorbed, and you're already at 800, or kind of my my range is kind of 800 to 1,000, right? So I agree with you. I would agree with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's an art and all of that. I am going to be looking. I really am going to be looking for this data. So Lowell Boyd is saying, I thought 1,200 calcium a day, 2 times 600 per dose. Well, so if you take more than 350 milligrams of calcium per day, per dose, you will absorb a very small fraction of it. So I would never take 600 milligrams of calcium all at the same time. And there's this thing called the calcium paradox, and even Harvard and Johns Hopkins, they're all starting to come down from 1,200 as being the RDA because of this thing called the calcium paradox, which is you can have calcium that is deficient in the bones at the same time as you have vascular calcifications, which causes plaque and artery and kidney stones and that kind of thing. So we all don't know what the right number is, but I would say that even Harvard is coming down to 1,800. Okay, who do we have next? Annie.
Hi. Have you ever worked with an organic acid test, which does, and if a person has within the last year, an organic acid test, versus the urine test that you recommend? I'm just curious your thoughts about that, the differences between the two, and is one more accurate or just different?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that an oxalic acid within an oat test is a snapshot, right? Because it's not a 24-hour urine test. So I think that a 24-hour urine test is probably a better measure, but I certainly think that if somebody has a high oxalic acid within an oat test, that's suspicious.
Okay, And when you're speaking about the 250 range for oxalates, you're talking endogenous and exogenous combined, and you're just be kind of guesstimating if a person takes, let's say, 2 scoops of collagen a day. You'd want to convert that.
It's just really, really difficult to calculate what your endogenous synthesis could be. And I think really the only way that you're gonna kind of be able to do a gestalt of it is to do that 24-hour urine oxalate value. And then what I'm talking about as far as 350 is really not including endogenous. Or 250.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kathy?
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I was in the hyperoxaluria range the last time I did the 24-hour urine test. And if I have a high oxalate day, how long should I wait before doing a 24-hour urine test to be back at my baseline of a more typical day?
That's really a good question. I mean, I would think that I have, okay. So there was a feeding study that was done, and they, I do know the answer to this. Okay, there's a feeding study that was done. So everyone was in the hospital, and they were given like IV nutrition, and that's all they ate. That's all they had. They had different levels of oxalates within the IVs, and they had a group that was at 250, and I think they like fed them that for a week. And then they started feeding them a low oxalate diet, low oxalate IVs, which actually had 0 oxalates in it. And it took 6 days for the urine excretion to come. I don't know if it came down to 0 or if it came down into the normal level. So I think it's about, I would say that probably is a reasonable time frame, that it takes about 6 days to clear from an acute. Now, sometimes, the tissues, if they've got a high oxalate burden, they can start to dump. So it's very difficult to take that into consideration.
But give it a good sort of 6 days-ish.
I think that would be a good rule of thumb.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Adrian?
Hi. I had a question. You made a comment about leg pain, and I was wondering if that would also include like leg and foot cramps. Is that the same kind of thing? Yes.
Yeah, and if you think about it, cramping is often, like in my world, cramping is mineral deficiencies and fatty acid deficiencies.
Okay.
So, because oxalates bind minerals, then doing doing a 40,000 volt mineral repletion for a while with the lemon juice, and maybe up your fatty acids. I find something to be really very helpful, which is Standard Process has a flaxseed oil product. So even like ground flaxseeds at about 2 tablespoons a day are so good, because they're a prebiotic, they're fiber, they keep you regular, they're good for your hormones, and they're good fatty acids. So,
Okay. For the class, do you have access to all the components after the 14 weeks to go? You can go back and get what you best or check out.
Yeah.
And also
the platform, as long as the platform is still around, the class will be there, and I don't expect the platform to go away any day soon.
And do you have to be on Facebook in order to interact with the Q&A or anything? No. Okay.
No, we do our Q&As through Zoom.
To Zoom? Oh, that's great. Okay.
And someone was confused where they were saying that the day was on Saturday. So what happens is that we're doing pre-recorded trainings, and the trainings get they go live on Saturday, and then we do our Q&As on Thursday. I've just started to do it that way just so that we can have more Q&A time, because I used to do a live training like this, and then it would take up 45 minutes to an hour of our Q&A, and now I want to just devote it to the Q&A.
And how long does the Q&A usually last?
Oh, that's a really hard question. We're going to try to keep it to 90 minutes.
Okay. Okay. I see many components that could be beneficial, so I'm thinking highly to possibly join your class. Thank you for all your information, and you too, Margie.
Oh, you're so welcome. And Dr. Millman will go on for 3 hours if we don't stop. I see one more person's hand, and then what do you think?
I was just gonna say that I'm pretty well known for, like, you know, taking the length of the Q&As to extreme.
I think that's why everybody like loves you so much, because you really help them. You take the material, which is it's complicated and it's confusing, and then you help people figure out how they can take that into their life, into their situation, and and how do you use the testing? How do you use all the things? So I think that's really great. Okay, so you want to just take like 1 or 2 more, or do you want to stop? I don't want to keep you.
Yeah, we can take 1 or 2 more. It looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. Deborah K has been asking a lot of very difficult questions over chat, so
sorry, Dr. Millman.
Let's make sure that Deborah K doesn't ask me like
I sent you a chat regarding citrate because you've been mentioning calcium citrate. And by the way, I'm a nurse. I'm a nursing instructor, and I'm finishing my certification in functional medicine. So I just actually heard some research on citrate not being a good option, and I put the information, I think, just in a chat to you directly.
So not being a good option for what?
For any of our supplements, because it's a ester or salt of synthetic citric acid, and citric acid kind of buffers your minerals and pulls minerals from your bones. So
so are you saying that it makes us more acidic?
Well, it's pulling out the minerals, including calcium. So, and then also citric acid, synthetic citric acid and citrate also apparently has some aspergillus mold toxicity. So I don't know. I don't know. That's just research that I recently heard, and I've been using, some calcium citrate products myself, and other citrate, and magnesium and other supplements. So I'm going to be looking into it a little bit further myself.
Yeah, I mean, this has been something that, well, first of all, I think the first thing that people can do is do lemon or lime juice, because that's natural, right? And so and yes, I think it is true that it may bind. I don't know if citric acid binds minerals or not. I know that it stops the calcium from being super saturated, and I know it makes the oxalates not super sat. I'm not sure. And in fact, I was talking to one of my patients because I thought that the citrate was binding the oxalates, and she told me no, there's no way that it could because it has the wrong charge.
So I'll look into it a little bit further, but that was just some initial research that I came across. So I do want to find out because a lot of products are citrate and including calcium.
Yeah, and
So-
and I recommend calcium and magnesium dimalate for supplementation for bone health. It's only when somebody's eating an oxalate food that I'm recommending the citrate form.
Thank you. Thank you.
I guess, wait, someone, oh, Anne, you know what? Anne doesn't know how to use can you call on Anne? She's been really waving her hand.
Okay, Anne.
Anne, you're on.
I'm sorry. Was there something else I was supposed to do?
Oh, there's a little thing you can raise your hand. That's okay. You're getting good exercise, Anne.
Thank you. I have been eating lots. I mean, heaping tablespoons, many of them per meal, and sometimes twice, 2 meals a day. And I started because I was allergic to peanuts, and it tastes really good. And I didn't know anything was going to happen. Anyway, about 5 years ago, I thought maybe I should take calcium. I don't know what kind of calcium I took, but whatever it was, I wound up with 2 kidney stones and an infection, and I almost died. And the doctor came and did a surgery to get rid of the stones. He came at 11 o'clock at night to do the surgery because I was in such danger. When I told him I was eating all that almond butter, he said, well, then you're getting plenty of calcium. You don't have to take a supplement. On the other hand, and I'm still eating that much, and maybe I shouldn't. I mean, it tastes really good, and it's certainly easier than cooking, but.
So you're talking about 2 tablespoons of almond butter a
More
day?
like 4 heaping tablespoons.
4 tablespoons, yeah.
Like a quarter cup or more.
Yeah, I don't think that that's a sustainable. I mean, it's I think
dangerous.
I think it's too much oxalates. Yeah.
And a couple of days ago, I tripped on the curb and I fell down hard. And I was able to get up, and I wasn't injured. It didn't even hurt. Does that mean I don't have I thought I had osteoporosis, but if I could fall that hard and not have even a crack.
Well, the diagnosis of osteoporosis is based on a DEXA scan. So, and if you fall and you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis or osteopenia, then it implies that your bone quality is pretty good.
But I should stop eating so much almond butter.
Personally, I don't think it's a good idea to eat that much almond butter.
Even once a day.
Only you can make that decisions, but I would look up how many milligrams of. Margie, did you say that what did Julie Matthews say about almond butter? Did she say
I don't remember the exact amount. I have to look in chronometer, but the fact that you had kidney stones, you've had issues already.
Yeah, right. I mean,
anyway,
your kidney doctor should be giving you instructions to reduce your oxalate levels, and they should also be giving you instructions to, I mean, increase your lemon juice and lime juice for the citric acid.
I would talk to them because they're usually pretty good at this. I mean, this is their area and they deal with this all the time.
And they measure 24-hour urine oxalates and citric acids all the time. It was from.
I would never have guessed. It's a good thing I listened to this class.
Yeah, see, you learn new things every day. Okay, we're going to have absolutely in 10 minutes. We're stopping, Dr. Millman. I'm not letting you talk another 3 hours. Okay.
Okay. So who should we pick on next? Is it
Paula? Paula and Christine and Adrian, we already talked with you, right? We just didn't remove your thing. Okay, so there's just Paula and Christine I see here.
Okay, Christine.
That's me, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a question about the list of the oxalates. Does that include the solubility? Is that how they calculate the level of oxalate, or is it just straight oxalate, soluble and insoluble?
No, there's no solubility estimates. Basically, yeah, I don't even know where to find that kind of a thing, but usually if usually the solubility versus the insoluble, yeah, I don't know even know where to find that, but it doesn't include that.
Okay, darn it. I know, I'm thinking of like fiber, how you can find lists of like soluble versus insoluble fiber and yeah, but not for
Well, and fiber can also bind the oxalates as well.
It's so confusing because so many foods that are high in calcium that you would think are good for osteoporosis are high in oxalates. So yeah, it kind of turns things around, but at least it's somewhat protective that the calcium's there. So, okay. And I was just questioning about like beans, like
It's bound. If the calcium is there and it's bound to oxalates, it's not gonna be absorbable. So
right, but it prevents some of the absorption of the oxalate, right?
it could, yeah, it could.
When you buy canned beans or you cook beans in a pressure cooker, it's not as good as soaking. I'm assuming, is it the time in the water that's the factor?
But it's also the boiling and the heating and the steaming. So in a pressure cooker, I would think that it would also reduce the oxalate levels, but I didn't see a study with that.
And would that be
and really, if I had on that slide, I didn't go into it, but I don't know, Margie, are we giving away my slides?
We didn't talk about it. Is that something that we want to do?
It's fine with me.
Okay. Is that good for everybody? We can include that with all right, so make sure because I'm gonna have the replay tomorrow. So Dr. Millman, just make sure I get them. Oh, I think I have them. I have them, right? Yeah.
But the thing that we're gonna do is take out the live gift because we wanted to encourage people to come.
People who are on the call. We wanted to give you a special bonus for showing up. So we added that special gift, the second gift. Does everybody have that link? The link?
No, I came a little bit late.
Which link?
Either.
That's the bit.ly link.
Yeah.
Which link, Margie?
The link is this. I can put it in if I can.
Putting in the chat.
Oh, gosh.
Tell everyone what's in that link.
Isn't it? So it's bit.ly and then is it reducing?
I wrote it in earlier. Let me go.
Is it reducing oxalates or
It's /reduce oxalates.
I have it way earlier. I put it in. Let's see.
Isn't it this? Is this it?
What's that meant to give us? Because all I'm getting is the PubMed.
Yeah, I wrote it down earlier. Hang on.
Well, Marty, you already have access to it. It's in the course.
So is that correct? Oh.
It's in your slides. Do you want to go to the slides real quick? It's in there. I had put it in earlier. There's just so many things in this guide.
Margie, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, let me do.
Tanya has it. Yeah, Tanya had it.
Wait, did someone put it in?
I just put it in.
Oh, good.
That's right.
It's bit.ly, yeah, bit.ly /, yeah, that's right.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's see. Are you ready to continue? We are going to end pretty soon. Paul, are we ready for Paula?
We can do one more. Okay, Paula's next.
Oh, thanks. Do you have,
is there anything we're supposed to abstain
It's hard to hear you, Paula.
before taking the 24-hour? Okay, can we combine the 24-hour calcium test and the urine calcium test and the 24-hour urine oxalate test? Can you hear Margie?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you, I mean, that
And
would
if
be,
we
that
do,
would
is
be,
there anything we're supposed to Kim, if we do, is there anything we're supposed to abstain from for the 24-hour oxalate test?
I know for the citric acid test, you're not
Or that one also?
You're not supposed to take vitamin. I don't, you're gonna have to ask, you're gonna have to call LabCorp and ask, or some other company. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that Lauren knows, but I don't know.
When I did my oxalates and citric acid, they did them separately. Didn't do them not at this, like, even though I went at the same time, but I had to do them separately.
You did?
Yes, collect urine for 24 hours for the oxalates, and again for the citric acid, collect 24, yeah.
That's horrible. I have to do that.
Did you have to stop lemons and vitamin C and all that?
I can't remember.
See, I can't remember either, but I kind of think that you do.
Maybe vitamin C.
People in your course, Kim, for people in your course who you have take those tests, do you have any instructions for them?
So my assistant knows, and I've forgotten.
Margie, is that something you can just mail out to everyone afterwards?
Oh, of course, yes. And we can certainly, you mean so the question is, yeah, we could answer that.
Here, Margie, I'll take this on. So Paula, just make sure to go to that oxalate, the little bit.ly, the millmanclinic.com/oxalates, and I'll make sure that we put a special email in there about how to do the 24-hour urine calcium, oxalate, and citric acid tests.
Enter your PIN followed by the pound key.
Okay.
Wait, that would be really helpful, because they're gruesome to do for 24 hours. I would hate to do it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I thought I heard from LabCorp that you could do them all at the same time.
But I just want to know, is there anything you have to stop for one of the tests that you don't stop for the other test?
I'll figure all that out and I'll put it in an email for you. And it'll be for everyone, so it'll just be in that stream, like that whole
long
stream.
time to find out we don't stop calcium.
Well,
we don't stop
the 24
calcium before the 24-hour calcium test, unless it has to be redone.
Well, the 24-hour calcium test, I know it is no calcium tests and no calcium supplements for 72 hours.
Okay, well, I think we've been here 2 hours.
Well, Margie and I went through this a lot.
No, you know the answer to that, Paula.
And from what I figured out, Dr. McCormick recommended one thing, or Jennings recommended one thing, came from calcium before a 24-hour calcium urine test, unless you have a problem, and then you get retested and abstain. I thought that was the solution we came up with.
Yeah, she's talking about the renal leak. So it depends if you have an issue or not. If you don't have an issue, you keep the calcium. You know the answer, Paula. Yes,
okay.
Well, for urine calcium, but I really honestly can't remember whether for citric acid, I think you're supposed to stop vitamin C and a certain number of days before, and I thought you could do them all in one urine collection, but I'm going to have to double check on that now.
Oh.
Dr. Millman, Ruth just posted that she did them all in one. So maybe here they're different. I don't know. But
No,
she
that's-
said she did.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I thought that my patients had done that too.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe here they have a different.
So to Will, we will, that's what's great. We don't know all the answers. Dr. Millman's not a total walking encyclopedia, only partial. Anyway, Dr. Millman, I cannot thank you enough. And
Dr. Millman, when do you think it would be good for us to check back?
she's going to send it to you in the handout, right? Correct?
It's gonna be in the email stream. It'll come
sorry.
out. It'll come out. It probably will come out Monday.
Okay, everybody. So we have all the links. Make sure if you are interested in the course, make sure when can they use the code until, Dr. Millman? So you'll get $100 off.
Well, we have the early bird till Monday, which is $300 off, which goes from $9.97 down to $6.97. They can use the code the whole time.
Oh, okay, but then it's just $100 off $9.97 versus, so it's either $8.97 or it's $5.97. That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's right. And you know me, because it's really hard for me to tell everybody that I won't take $300 off for them.
We just want to help the world, Wait, so does everybody have the code? So I put it in there. So it's Happy Bones F because it's fall 24, correct? Did I do that? I put it in the chat.
It's Happy Bones F24 and it's all caps.
Yeah.
And somebody wants to know how often. So it's going to be every spring and every fall.
So does that $100 come off the $9.97 or the $6.97?
The $6.97 is going to be available until Monday, August 12th. And then from August 12th to August 17th, it's going to be $9.97. So the $100 comes off of whatever. It's an early bird price for $6.97.
Love my community so much. You do though, don't you? Dr. Millman does a lot of things with us.
I know it's very hard for me to charge $9.97 for anything. So,
but this class is unbelievable. Anyway, it's just now I teach two things. I teach an exercise class and I teach a happiness stress reduction class, part of it. So I always love coming because it's just fun. It's all great people and yeah, it's all good. All right, everybody. So it's so I just thank you so much, Dr. Millman, for spending all this time and sharing your brilliance with all of us. And I just want to say thank you. So I think if anyone wants to, we'll just all say thank you. If you want to write anything to Dr. Millman, you can write it in the chat. We'll check the chat out. And yeah, so I hope you don't get overwhelmed by this. The key is
hold on. So Annette is saying there was a lady named Kathleen Anuli who had her hand up the entire time and didn't know how to click the virtual hand.
Okay, Kathleen.
I feel so bad that she could not get through. I think we should.
Kathleen.
I think we should ask Kathleen Anuli to be our last.
Yes, where are you, Kathleen? I don't see you. Can you wave or are you just a voice?
Yeah, I don't see her anywhere either.
Okay, Kathleen, so you're here. Are you still here?
So Kathleen, just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Oh, I guess she's left.
Oh.
Oh, well, if you listen to the replay, Kathleen, well, we will, does it say how to spell her name? I can send her an email. And with her.
Kathleen, Annulli.
Okay. All right. Now she'll get a special question answered. All right, everybody. So just thank you so much. And don't get overwhelmed. Do you want any last minute things to say? Just use this information to help you. So many people have been helped because they found out pain, different things. It just gives you more information. And the goal is for your good health.
Yeah, I just think that moderation, just think about moderation, right? And Don't go crazy. I mean, unless you have something really serious, then maybe, you know, that's the best thing for your health. But if you don't, if you just are interested in checking out to see if, you know, that your hand pain gets a little bit better with low oxalates, then try to just do some swapping out and do some easy things first, right? And then if things start to help, then get a little more aggressive. And you know, everything in life is an experiment. I mean, that's coming from an engineer. So everything's an experiment.
This is true. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for hanging in and thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. They can reach out to your office too, Dr. Millman, right? If they have questions about the class.
Yeah, absolutely. They can talk to Lauren. You know, that you can go to the millmanclinic.com, get our phone number, call Lauren. Lauren would love to talk with you. She loves to talk to everybody.
Yeah. So feel free.
She's a talker.
And hopefully, I think I told people my email, my email had a huge problem today that nothing. So if you've written me or my support team and you haven't gotten something, it's because massive tech issue with the email. Hopefully it'll be fixed by tomorrow. But anyway, you'll get this email, you'll get the replay tomorrow. Okay, on the count of 3, we'll just say, I always think of a word. Do you have a word, Dr. Millman, you want to say? Like, having any good word? Empowerment or strong bones, or anybody have a good word they want to use?
Amazing.
Amazing. Okay, let's do that. I love the word amazing. Okay.
To your health.
Amazing good health. Okay. So we'll just say thank you, Dr. Millman. Amazing good health. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Millman.
Amazing good health.
Amazing good health. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
let me save the chat.
We'll see you all soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Bye.
Here, I'm going.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. I save the chat, and then I have to turn YouTube off because I'm on YouTube as well. Okay, here, we'll save the chat, and we will get off. Bye, everybody. I'll end the meeting, and we'll see what happens on YouTube. I don't know what happens there. Okay. Okay, let's end the meeting. Okay, bye.